Welcome, listeners. Here we are at the White Horse Studios in Burleigh once again for From Navy Ships for Property Tips podcast with Robson and Robson Property. My name's Shane Robson. You guys got to meet me in our first couple of podcasts last week. You know what makes me tick and why we do what we do in the property investment space. But now it's time to hear from some of our partner builders to come and share some of their knowledge and explain to you guys what's involved behind the scenes with the planning and strategy before we even show you a property to invest in, so that you've got all the underpinning knowledge to take action and pull the trigger to own your first investment property. So I'm here with Alex Wheeler. Thanks for joining us, Alex. I'm sure that some of you guys that are listening are subscribed to our Robson and Robson Property socials, and you would have seen me monkeying around on some swings in a kid's playground just the other week. The other guy on the swing next to me was Alex. So that was a good day, wasn't it?
That was fun.
Yeah, we had a bit of a run up through through Brisbane and had a look at some things. We had a lot of fun doing it. Before we get stuck into things, how was your holidays? What did you get up to?
Mate, just got out and adventured around town.
Yep.
So spent a bit of time overseas. Obviously a bit of time with the family.
Yep.
Ended up in Bali.
Oh, good.
It was meant to be a bit of a surfing trip.
Yep.
But, day one ended up in hospital. Nearly
Of course
sliced
you
my
did.
fingers off. So
No way.
yeah, the funny part is for the rest of the trip I had my hands out of the water in the pool, and everyone was waving at me because they thought I was waving at them.
Yeah, good. That sounds like... So it was a good holiday in the end? You spent more time drinking than you did surfing.
That was it, and meeting some good people.
Yeah, good. What's your background, mate? Where are you from?
Mate, I'm originally from England.
England?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, Nottingham. So I moved over when I was about 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I love the water so much, because I never had any of it when
There's
I was there.
not much in England. It's cold.
Not that you want to swim in.
Cool. Based here on the Gold Coast now?
Yeah, mate. Moved down from Brisbane about 15 years ago.
Yep.
Drive to Brisbane every day.
Sure.
But love the Gold Coast lifestyle.
Good.
Lived down at Palm Beach.
What's not to love about Palm Beach?
Not much.
It's
pretty good.
What a good spot.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about property. You're one of our partner builders. There's a lot of reasons why Robson and Robson Property deals with you and your firm. So I want to get some of the knowledge out of your head into my podcast for my listeners, so that they get a bit of background information on why I've chosen you guys, a little bit about why you've chosen us to work together as well. So what's your property story? How'd you get into it? What do you love about it?
Mate, I bought my first property when I was about 23 on the Gold Coast.
Yep.
Have another property now. I got into the industry about 6 years ago. I really loved the capacity to work within an industry where you've got a product that is creating capital growth, helping people find some financial freedom.
Sure.
And there's obviously really good investments. There's some not so good investments, and the reason I work for the business that I do is that I thoroughly believe in the product and the places that we purchase and develop all of our own land.
Yep, good.
Which is all based in that Brisbane area.
So the company that you work for, your company, it's been around for 30 years?
Yeah, 32nd year of trading.
Unreal. So, something that's really important for Robson and Robson when we team up with builders is the history, the track record, how you guys are funded. Can you tell us a little bit about how strong your company is and its performance over the last 30 years?
Yeah, so the business started out on the Bayside in Brisbane. We're still based out there at the moment. The development sites that we've got are quite sprawling around all of Brisbane.
Sure.
We specialise in southeast Queensland.
Yep.
We've probably got about 2,000 to 3,000 lots of land, in our forward land pipeline. Everywhere from North Brisbane, the southwest pocket, all the way over to the Bayside.
Sure.
So the business we're a developer, we're a builder, and we also have a loan market franchise, so that when clients come in and they're seeking finance, we can help them out from start to finish.
Sure. Being an integrated company like yourselves, like you just touched on, you guys acquire the land, develop the land, and build on the land, as well as, having a finance franchise as well. Tell us how important it is to have all those things in line rather than just going to a builder who builds on someone else's land, et cetera, et cetera. Tell us about the covenants
Yeah.
around your estates?
So, look, there's just so many positives of having the development, the builder, and the finance side of things. So from a development point of view, obviously we really investigate the areas that we believe in. We own the land and we develop it ourselves. We build in our own estates, so you can't come into an Ausbuild estate and buy a block of land unless you're building an Ausbuild home. And that really protects the community, it protects the outcome of the estate. The covenant side of things we control from start to finish. So knowing what every house is going to be like on the street, we can ensure that the colours complement each other. You know that the streetscape looks really fantastic. We've got so much experience in the business. So the current president of the HIA Queensland works for Ausbuild. Has for over 20 years. The directors are, involved heavily in UDIA. There's a lot of knowledge in the business. So when it comes to the acquisition of land, obviously Southeast Queensland is the focus, and then when we're building the communities, we're limiting the amount of investors in there. So we're one of the top 5 builders in Queensland. We're a huge retail builder, and so we really ensure that these communities that we're delivering have a lot of owner-occupiers in them. And when you see an owner-occupier's house, they're looking after the lawn, they're spending money on the property. You can drive through some estates that, in certain areas that are heavily geared toward investors. And I'm sure that you'll agree that they don't often present well as a community where it's predominantly residential.
I think it's a great point. Also, the leasing pool in your estates is there's less properties in the leasing pool, which gives you a greater yield, supply and demand. If everyone in your estates mostly are owners, there's fewer people renting, so that yields there. We were hanging around on the swings at one of your estates just the other day. When you said community just before, the amenities second to none?
No, you saw it. There's a park that's huge. There's ample space, connectivity from the new development into existing developments behind it. We've got some townhouses there with a pool and some barbecues in there. There's a childcare centre that we saw being built. So, that sense of community obviously is what brings families into the area. So when we're looking at the total outcome of that estate, you're going to have families. That area's on the Bayside in Brisbane, so you've got fantastic lifestyle. We've got some huge blocks in there with triple garages. People are putting boats in. We saw it all. There's views of the bay there that some people have got to go.
I swear I saw a whale. I think I saw a whale when we're on the swings. So that all sounds great. Well done. So let's talk about the Australian property markets. I often say there's no such thing as the Australian property market. Last week I touched on Southeast Queensland and what I think are 2 really good spots in Southeast Queensland, the Sunshine Coast as well as the Gold Coast. But it was remiss of me to bring up Brisbane. So what's happening in Brisbane? I think it's a hot market. Let's talk about some infrastructure and things on the move in Brizzy.
So in the last podcast, obviously there was some focus on the Sunshine Coast and the Gold Coast with infrastructure that's going out there. When we come into the middle, into the capital city of Queensland, being Brisbane, you just got to drive through it to see it. Like, it's actually infrastructure projects that are underway.
It's happening now.
So it's not. We're not talking about investing into a city where there's plans to spend money. The airport, I think, it has been being built for the last 8 years, and the additional runway. That thing opens in the middle of this year. It creates, I believe, the same capacity as Singapore and Hong Kong airports.
Unreal.
Which if you've ever travelled through there, you know the size of that. So you've got the ability to bring more people in, and then you've got the Queen's Wharf project, which is under construction.
Massive.
Which is going to retain those new tourists. Typically, Brisbane has been somewhere that, being the only 24-hour airport on the eastern seaboard, a lot of tourists come in, then they'll fly down to Melbourne or Sydney,
Right.
up to the Barrier Reef,
Sure.
Queen's Wharf, and
gonna-
some of the other projects are just going to keep people
They're
there.
going to
spending
attract them
money.
to stay in Brisbane.
Yeah.
It's going to become an international destination.
You know, and then you've got the Cross River Rail project. You've got the Brisbane Live. You've got the new Metro project.
Sure.
So, you know, Brisbane, that new world city concept.
Yep.
If you drive through it, or if you jump onto Brisbane Marketing, the website there, you can see what's actually going on and the amount of money that's being spent, which is creating jobs.
Unreal. No, it is absolutely on move. It's no longer the sleepy sort of city that it used to be 20 years ago. So let's talk about micro, whereabouts in Brisbane. So we've spoken about all the big infrastructure projects that are making Brisbane a tourist destination. We're getting population growth, employment, everything's being driven in the right direction. Where are you focusing your efforts, and where are you acquiring land and building?
Yeah, sure. So, look, when it comes to picking a property, obviously people will pick from a retail point of view, close to family, for areas that they've grown up in, for lifestyle, for various reasons. So
Sure.
we have projects on the north side of Brisbane, we have projects in the southwest corridor, and we have projects over on the bay side.
All bases covered.
Yeah, so
Great.
so from a north side point of view, you've got obviously North Lakes up that area. You've seen the size of that. There's been huge growth in the property
Absolutely.
market up that way. So we've got some projects up there, some house and land up that way. A new university's just opened up. Well, it opens, I think, the first students are in there in the next couple of weeks.
Sure.
University of the Sunshine Coast in Petrie.
Yep.
So that development site there is about 6 minutes away from the new university.
Okay.
About 5 minutes from North Lakes.
Great.
Moving a little bit closer into town, we've got some townhouses in Albany Creek.
Sure.
That project has been a fantastic one for us.
Unreal. Sure has.
And for the investors, the valuations are really strong.
Good.
They're renting out really quickly. And that was before, you know, even the university had opened up. So, you know, that project's a real focus for us at the moment.
Okay.
In the southwest corridor, obviously Springfield Lakes is a real hotspot.
Massive hub. Huge employment hub.
Yeah, so between there and the Brisbane CBD is a suburb called Pollara.
Okay.
And we have made a huge commitment to that area.
Sure.
We probably have acquired 60 to 70% of the available developable land in that suburb alone.
Okay.
We probably built about 200 homes out there, and we looked at some numbers yesterday. What was previously $499,000 is now being sold for around $550,000. So you're getting some uplift out there as well.
Sure.
You've got the Logan motorway that's under construction, the widening of that. You're close to Springfield Lakes if you want to go to the movies and do some serious shopping.
Great.
And you're just 16 kilometres from the city. So we're finding that tenants out there can work in town, can work on the Gold Coast.
Sure.
I live on the Gold Coast. It takes me 50 minutes to get there at peak hour. So
Yeah, sure.
it is quite central to a lot of employment opportunities. And then we shift over to the Bayside, which lifestyle choice, really, really good rental yields, and really low vacancy rates.
Unreal.
So limiting the amount of investors in all of these estates.
Sure.
You touched on it before, Shane. Make sure that there is limited rental properties on the market. So if you drive through some of our completed estates, you'll see we've done it.
Yep.
We didn't even see a full lease sign.
Sure.
There are a couple for sale signs, but that, you know, at any one time there might be one or two properties for rent in these estates.
Yeah, nice one.
So when it comes to securing and having some confidence in the investment, obviously you need somebody renting those properties for you. We do have an affiliation with a property manager who can give you a guarantee on a rental as well, on a rental yield.
Great.
For a period of time. So
Sure.
there's lots of different options there.
When you spoke about your Bayside one too, there's a lot of infrastructure happening over there with the new wharf precinct.
Yeah. Yeah.
Talk us through that one.
Yeah, so it's called Toondah Harbour. The land reclamation's been done.
Sure.
Nothing's started yet.
Okay.
There are still a few hoops to jump through.
Okay.
It's kind of a watch this space
Yeah.
scenario.
Okay. Yep.
That area out there is extremely It's extremely green.
Yeah.
The people that live out there, it's kind of like Noosa.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a little branch of the city, isn't it?
Yeah, they just don't embrace that sort of. They love it so much they want to keep it for themselves.
Sure.
So the Toondah Harbour project, if you've been out to sort of Raby Bay.
Raby Bay, yep.
Yeah, so it's a version of that. It'll have residential, it'll have retail, it'll have a marina.
Dining precincts.
Yeah.
Unreal. So obviously where you're focusing your projects, land availability is becoming scarce, which is a great thing. It's a good thing. So this is the sort of last releases of house and land that we're going to be seeing in these key regions in Brisbane. That's why I'm leaning towards house and land at the moment. That'd be a fair
absolutely
assumption.
Yeah. So if you look at the Sydney and the Melbourne markets, there's sort of that urban sprawl situation going on. Brisbane's not quite there yet.
Sure.
So the South East Queensland Regional Planning Scheme, which is a government-driven scheme, really wants to see the money that they've spent on existing infrastructure utilised by filling in these little gaps, these little pockets, filling the missing middle concept.
Which are long gone in Sydney and Melbourne. Long gone.
So when we look at Pollara, for example, if you look on a Google map, you can see Brisbane CBD sprawling out and then just this one green little suburb sitting in the middle of it.
Yep.
Now, when you do look at that, you'll see a lot of green space.
Yep.
There have been conversations that I've had with people that say there's so much land available there. I can provide you with some documentation that shows that a huge portion of that is going to be retained as green space.
Yep.
And there's a portion of it which is all ecological corridor as well.
Sure.
So the council is making sure that we're not just cramming in hundreds of thousands of homes into this little area and it being an undesirable place to live. It is the last big parcel of land in Brisbane City Council, so it is a Brisbane City Council postcode.
Sure.
And your connectivity into Brisbane's pretty good through transport.
When you're looking at, I look at Sydney all the time for house and land, what's left and what's comparable. I mean, we're looking at $900,000 for a house and land package in Oran Park, which is 2 hours commute into Sydney. So to only be, 17 Ks from the CBD and only 30 minutes drive into work each morning, it's a pretty good option, very desirable. Let's talk more about house and land and the benefits of it versus apartments. We've done a lot of work in the past, CBD apartments, but the focus now is on these growth areas in Brisbane, being these the house and land packages. What are the pros and cons with regards to house and land versus apartments, do you think?
Oh, look, we obviously focus on house and land and building residential communities.
Sure.
There's always that dream of having your own home and a backyard.
Yep, sure.
And that's what our business has focused on.
Yep.
So, we dabble in that townhouse space, but that's to offer a product solution that when you're looking at a density in an area that doesn't have any land left,
sure,
there's still a huge desire for people to live there.
That's right.
So that's where we go with the townhouse.
Townhouse is the solution for that. Yep.
And then the house and land side of things, we just really ensure that we're creating a community where people want to live.
Sure.
So when you drive through it, you enjoy coming home. There's kids playing on the street. There's not 100 cars sitting on the verge like in other investment estates.
That's right.
We can supply you with some drive-throughs, some videos that we've taken.
Unreal.
We did some the other day.
Yep.
That was pretty fun.
We've got some footage from our site tours the other day that we're going to put up. There'll be some scattered throughout this podcast. I'm sure that the boys at Whitehorse are going to put us on the swings at some stage during this as well. So let's talk about what's available now. We spoke about Pollara, Thornlands, as well as Albany Creek.
Yep.
Let's talk through specifics. We've got house and land and townies.
Yep. Bedroom
complement, price points.
Yep.
Let's
So before we get into the pricing side of things, just from a product point of view, obviously an investment needs to be a long-term play.
Sure.
All right. So what makes a good investment is you'll run the guys through it, but it's obviously area specific and product specific.
Sure.
When we look at what the product is that we're delivering to market, this is a retail product made available to your investors.
That's an important point.
Yeah, so when it comes to getting a tenant, they're going to walk in, they're going to see freestanding 900 Westinghouse cookers, not little electric hot plates.
Sure.
When it comes to looking at that property in a year to 5 years, obviously you want to be creating equity in those properties. So ensuring that the product is resaleable on the open market to an owner-occupier is something we put a lot of focus in with the designs, the inclusions and the spec. All right, so when we look at the product itself, 5 years down the track, we want a family to be able to come in and have a look at this property and go, yeah, I'll buy that.
Sure.
That creates equity for your investor who can then expand their portfolio.
Great.
All right, so back to your question on location, price points, those sorts of things. You kind of House and Land, North Brisbane.
Sure.
We've got a little infill pocket in a suburb called Dacabin, which is right next door to North Lakes. It's actually got the first drive-through Woolworths being built about 200 metres up the road.
A drive-through Woolworths?
Drive-through Woolworths, yeah.
Never heard of such a thing.
We might put some details up on
we could do that.
Yeah. It's under construction at the moment.
Okay.
I believe it's the first one in Australia.
It must be.
It blows my mind.
Just open the boot and they just throw it in as you drive through. I don't know how it works. Sounds good.
So you're about 499 grand for a 4-bedroom home up there.
Okay.
Limited stock in that area, so I think it's about 38 lots.
Okay.
That's registered, ready to build as we talk. Moving closer to town, Albany Creek, those townhomes. Great investment for some of you guys that want to be near that Enoggera base, perhaps.
Sure.
They're sort of $455,000 to $490,000.
Great.
They're a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bathroom product. We walked through them the other day.
They look great. We were out there the other day. Yeah, we were.
And then we've got, so you go to the southwest.
Sure.
House and Land out there, you're sort of low 5s to mid 5s. Obviously, the bigger the blocks, the more expensive you're going to get.
Of course.
But the rentals out there are sort of 4.5%.
Okay.
So you spend 530 grand, you're kind of high 400s on your rent.
Yep, good.
And then out on the bay side, where you've got some limited land supply, we've probably only got 200 blocks left out there.
Sure.
When you look at the estate, you got benchmark homes. We saw them the other day, $1 million.
Yeah.
Big
right
block,
next door.
Right next door to a house you can get for $550,000 that is going to rent for 500 and something.
It's unreal.
So yeah, price point out there. We've also got some townhomes out there which we had a look at with the pool in it, opposite the park. They started around 420,000.
That's a great first investment. Good price point for a first investment. Well, that's good. Thanks for sharing that. That's a really strong portfolio, and it's now becoming obvious, I hope, for you guys at home, why Robson and Robson has teamed up with Alex and his team. We spoke price points then, so out in the market, there's some people that talk about lock-up, turnkey.
Yep.
What you guys have is a tenant-ready product,
Yeah.
which is fixed price. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, so what we wanted to do in the marketplace was really give confidence to yourselves and to your purchasers. So as a developer and the builder, we've created the land. We know exactly what the finished product's going to look like in terms of land. So when you look at a price of a house online or these price leading ads in retail world
with an asterisk,
with an asterisk,
$399,000 asterisk
plus roof,
yeah,
plus
yeah,
driveway.
Yeah,
So,
no landscaping.
No, so we offer to yourselves and to your investors what we call a tenant ready range.
Great.
All the site costs are fixed. As I said, with the developer, we know exactly what's under the soil.
Sure.
So the site costs are fixed. All the inclusions are at a spec where you can basically take the keys from the builder and hand them straight to a property manager who can hand them straight onto a tenant.
Excellent.
So you were talking blinds, landscaping, letterboxes, clotheslines, air cons, and lots of electrical points.
Sure.
4 electrical points where all the TVs go. So your tenants don't have to go and
get double adapters
and things like that. These are really livable homes with a lot of thought gone into them.
With that management, we're talking about handing the keys over.
Yep.
Do you guys offer a rental guarantee?
Yeah, so we partner with a business that does.
Sure.
So that's something that we can offer to you
Great.
guys and your investors.
Sure.
There's a 1-year option, there's a 2-year option, and there's a 3-year option.
I think that's so rare. A lot of builders out there in the market build the thing, hands off, and then it's over to your manager. It's back onto the agent or the agency. So that's a really great point, key point for the last thing our investors want is to buy a property and then have no one living in it from the get-go.
Well, one of the other things also, Shane, just to interrupt, sorry, when you're talking about hands off, when you've got and I don't know if you've been through this before, when you've got a builder and a developer that aren't the same business, there's often delays on sites. Like we've got a week and a half of rain due in front of us.
Yep.
Now, so tools are going to be down.
Sure.
We just can't work in those environments. So when you're looking to present a property that has a builder over here and a developer over here, it's really easy for one to blame the other on why things aren't happening.
Right. Yeah.
So you've got one point of contact in me or someone in my team to say, hey, where's the project at? What's the delay caused by? Where are we at and what's going on? Yeah. You can't hide.
That's a great point. It's good too when tools are down and it's raining up here. We're so close that you're going to go surfing. Surf's up. Tools down, surf's up.
On public.
Let's talk back to price point.
Yep.
So it's fixed price, tenant ready, valuations. So something that I work really hard on, or what we work really hard on at Robson & Robson Properties, having valuation support. When it comes to my young first-time investors, second-time investors, we can't get to the stage of being ready to invest, choose a property, go get a loan, and then the bank values it under. So two things I want to do. I want to talk about what valuations mean and what they are. What's a bank val? Let's talk about that first.
Sure. So essentially when you apply for finance, the bank will obviously look at your application.
Sure.
We'll roll a dice on what's called the ValX system.
Yep.
A valuation firm will be sent out to have a look at a vacant block of land and with the contract plans, and then they'll basically say what it's worth. So in a lot of instances when valuers come out to an estate or a residential community that isn't a residential community, it's an investor-based estate.
Sure.
They're going to know that should that property need to be sold on the open market, that there's probably going to be a few others available.
Yep.
And it's probably not worth the amount of money that is on the contract.
Sure.
All right. So two things. One, being residential estates with retail homes that we provide,
sure,
the valuers know the product and they know the end result. All right, so they've already got a bit of a surety on our branding, being a one of the top 5 retail builders in Queensland, and two, to protect that, I've actually employed a valuer that was an active valuer in the field up until about 8 months ago.
Sure.
That was actually valuing properties in one of the areas that we develop in. And every single house and land package or townhouse that we sell,
sure,
to your investors, he meets the valuer on site,
great,
and runs them through the block, the area, comparable sales,
great,
and we've had huge success with that. You said before we can't crystal ball it. We're not guaranteeing that every single valuation's coming in on the dollar.
Sure.
But what we do is give ourselves the best opportunity
sure,
to make sure that they do.
You really need to paint the picture for this valuer and say, this is the vision for this area. This is what it's going to look like, so that they get it.
And one of the best parts of it is we've got a valuer talking to a valuer. It's not, an agent, a salesperson,
that's right,
a builder talking to a valuer, trying to have a conversation with someone on a different level.
They speak the same language.
They do.
And so how has that? Tell me about your results.
They've been brilliant.
Off the back of that, your history lately has been valuing.
Yeah.
Really, really well.
Yeah, look, we know some firms in certain areas support, some firms are overexposed.
Sure.
So, there is the ability for us to have that internal knowledge.
Great.
To point you guys in the right direction of, some banks to really focus on using.
Great.
And valuation firms to try and get on board.
Thanks for explaining that, Alex, about the valuations. One other thing that I wanted to touch on, which is really important, what we like to do at Robson & Robson Property is streamline. I've spoken before about how important it is to have your professional world as an investor. One of the really key people to have in there is a mortgage broker. It's a key part of purchasing a property is getting the money and getting a loan. One thing that really stands out about you guys and your firm is that you've got in-house brokerage.
Yeah. So when we look at the business model, it's essentially house, land, finance.
Yeah.
Builder, block, and finance. So from a retail point of view, a family can come in, they can pick their block, they can design their home, and they can sit with a finance broker.
Sure.
On site.
Great.
So we offer that through our investment channels as well. So the benefit of having it in-house is obviously these guys live and breathe these areas.
Sure.
They live and breathe the banks and the valuation firms that are supporting these areas.
Great.
And everybody's personal situation's different.
Sure.
So having that brokerage
and
opportunity.
the communication between all parties involved is there. There's a synergy there.
Yeah, and look, let's be real. It's not exactly the easiest time out there in the finance sector. So extensions and a couple of extensions these days is fairly normal.
Explain that for the guys. What do you mean by extensions?
So in the contracts, usually you've got a 14, 21 day finance clause depending on who you are and what you're doing. Often, banks are picking up files late. There's more information that they're looking through. They're going through your personal expenses with a fine tooth comb. That takes a lot longer than it used to.
Yep.
So having the communication in-house between our broker to the owners of the business, gives a lot of more security of getting these extensions through and passing them along.
Absolutely. So I wanted to ask you the question, Alex. We've spoken about in the last couple of podcasts. It's 2020. It's now time to take action for all those guys who are sitting on the fence and are needing that push, that reason to invest. I mean, what would be your first piece of advice for these guys who are just wanting to pull the trigger but for some reason aren't? Yeah,
look, there's lots of education out there. I think talking with somebody that knows what they're doing, that's got the knowledge, that's got good, strong relationships with builders and developers, someone like yourself, someone that lives and breathes in this industry, and get some real time advice. Because you might have looked at it 2-3 months ago, it's changing all the time.
Sure.
So someone with the finger on their pulse, like yourself, I'd be getting in contact with someone like you. Solid advice.
Well, that's a wrap for today, Alex. Thanks very much for coming in and joining us. For all you guys in Sydney and surrounding areas, we'll be kicking off our workshops for 2020 in March at the Vibe Hotel in Rushcutters Bay. Alex will be coming down to join us and showcase some of the amazing house and land investments that you can own. For more information, hit the links attached or contact us through our socials or our website. Thanks very much for joining us. That's a wrap.